summertime, which means the transfer window is now open or soon to be open, which means there's going to be so much speculation about players we're going for. And to be honest with you, I'm quite looking forward to it, Riley. I'm not going to lie. I'm a bit like a kid when it comes to the transfer window. I get a bit excited. I start getting excited about a new season, new kits. I'm a bit like that and start dreaming of who we're going to be bringing in. But one thing I want to talk about, rather than players we're bringing in, is players that are going out. I do think West Ham. I don't think we've got a terribly bad squad. I think it's probably the strongest squad we've had. Well, probably in my lifetime. So I'm not going to be too despondent with it. But I think we have got some deadwood in it, mate. I do think there's some players that do need to move on now and freshen things up. I do want to see what people's comments are on this because I might be being a little bit harsh. But I think West Ham need to change. This is just my opinion, Riley. Obviously, you can argue with me as much as you want and say, if I'm wrong. But I think this is my feeling. This season, this whole obsession with changing our style under Moyes. We need to change our style. We need to be more possession-based. We need to be doing this and doing things different. We need to be behaving like a Man City and holding the ball better and all this kind of stuff. I was always a bit not entirely bought into that because I just thought, well, it's great. It all sounds great. But if you can't really coach it and you don't really know how to deal with it, and you're not a Pep Guardiola, you don't really know what you do. I wasn't really sold on it. I just didn't think it was going to work. And I don't think it did at all. I think it was this obsession about trying to change everything when really it didn't really need changing, in my opinion. I found it to be our system worked quite well. We're a team that effectively sits back under Moyes. We absorb the pressure, but when we've got possession, we are quite quick with it. We deal with it with basically a bit counter attack, and we're quite accurate with our passing and whatnot. So I was actually happy for it to stay on like that. So my feeling is this summer West Ham need to be looking at players that emulate the players that we've already got that we want to keep. I.e., like, right, I want to get a new striker to replace Antonio. Well, go and get another Mikel Antonio then. Go and get someone that's fast, powerful, can score goals. That's what you want and can run the channels. Don't go and get a Scamacca who's going to go, well, I don't do any of that. And then you try and then go, well, you need to. And he's just going, well, I don't. That's my feeling on it. What's your feelings, first of all, before we go into clearing out players? What's your feeling on terms of our recruitment strategy this summer?
It's a difficult one, mate, because I think at the start of the season, we tried to do what we always have done, which is play counter-attacking football. I don't think we really tried to change our style at the start of the season. And the issue is we played Scamacca, we played players who don't suit that sort of role. We've said it before, haven't we? We buy players. It's like we've got, it's two ways about it. We either buy players to fit a system that doesn't suit them, or we then get players to suit a system that doesn't suit them. As in, we'll have a system in mind, and we'll force players already at the club or whatever to play that system, or we'll go out and buy players for a new system that we want, or a system that we have that just don't suit that system. So whatever system David Moyes or the West club have got in mind, it never seems to be tangible with the actual players we have and bring in at the club. That's a big issue for me, and I think we tried to go for the whole 3-back, which is obviously what Moyes wanted to do. It's why he brought Agerd in. It didn't work. He wanted to go for more of a low block, sort of possession-based football, playing a little bit more slowly because teams just seem to have figured us out a little bit more. We weren't going to catch them by surprise by being this cool counter-attacking side. But realistically, like towards the end of the season, that's what we played. We played counter-attacking football, and it worked. And also, one thing I noticed was we had this weird thing about lumping the ball in the box all the time and trying to, even though we have no one really who's, and I also, one thing that really pisses me off, and it's going to be very controversial, I think, in my summer clear out, is the way that we bend over backwards to get sort of Souček in the squad, for instance. I don't really understand why we're playing a system like we're trying to get like a false ghost striker so that Souček can stay in the team, when in the actuality, you don't play well in the team, so you just shouldn't be playing. I completely agree with you that there seems to be a huge disconnect between the players we bring in and the system we want to play. And I think probably going back to what works with the 4-3-3 attacking football, we've got the players there to do it. We've got players like Paqueta and Bowen and Benrahma, an attacking side. We should be using that, but who knows? Maybe it'd be a whole new system with a whole new manager in the summer. So it's really
we don't know, do we? Yeah, we don't know what the system's going to be, and we don't know. We don't know the manager's going to be. Yeah, I mean, it looks like David Moyes, but who knows? We don't know for certain. And we were talking about director of football coming in. That's going to have a massive impact on things like recruitment and styles of play, I'm sure. So it is going to be interesting. But certain players, then, I mean, I want to talk about a couple of, let's start for the nice ones that we need to replace. So Manuel Lanzini, he looks like he's part in the club. I'm not talking about Declan Rice as well. We're not talking about that. I'm talking about players that are leaving. I mean, Manuel Lanzini is for me deadwood now. Like he has been for quite a while. He doesn't really fit in. You know, he doesn't really have a role to play really at West Ham sadly anymore. Don't get me wrong, but I love Lanzini, so I've got no problem with him, and I think it's just the time is right for him now to move on. I just don't think, you wouldn't look at him next season and go, oh, he's going to have some really interesting. I just don't think he has. I think he's just a very, very much a very bit part player. And I would think it'd be right for him now to move on. But there are a few, mate, that I do want to see go. I'm going to start off with the big controversial one as well. I think Danny Ings needs to go. I don't think he fits West Ham at all. I really don't. I don't think he's the style of player we want. And there's no disrespect, Danny Ings. He'd do well at other clubs. He really would. He just doesn't fit us. Like he never has from day one. He's a goal poacher. We don't need a goal poacher. We want someone that's going to run the channels, bully defenders, get involved. He just doesn't. He's not that player at all. I've not been impressed with him, mate. I really haven't. I've not ever since day one. I know he scored a couple of goals against, I think it was Forest, if I remember rightly. He's done a couple of bits, but ultimately I saw him against Leicester. I thought he was really poor. I don't know. I'm just not sold on Danny Ings at all. And the fact he's on about 130 or grand a week, I just think just get rid of him as quick as we can this summer. Even if you lose, even if you have to get rid of him for a couple of £1 million, just get him off the books and move on from him, because that's my feeling. Do you think I'm being a bit harsh there, Danny Ings?
Well, it's ironic, mate, because he's technically our top scorer in the Premier League because of all the goals he scored at Aston Villa. And he was doing quite well at Aston Villa. But I think he's on such a high wage. I don't know. I feel like Antonio might move on this summer.
Really?
And also Skamaka might leave this summer as well. For me, their future's so uncertain that, is it worth sticking with Danny Ings? Do we, listen, mate, we know West Ham United. How many strikers have we bought under GSB? Can we really replace 3 strikers in a whole window? I mean, I don't know. And I feel like if I had the pecking order, Skamaka would be number 1 for me. I'd really love to keep him. I know people aren't sold on him, and maybe he's on your list to clear out, but
no, he's not.
Oh, he's not. Well,
I'd like you. I'd quite like to see him give him one more season. I think he's had an injury. I'd still like to think I'd see more of him, because when I have seen him play at times, I thought, he looks this is a top. We talked about it in the video in the season, didn't we? We were comparing him to sort of Kane level, not in terms of goal scoring ability, but we were going how he build up play, how he gets involved. I thought we could have a really special player around here, but we haven't seen it really. But no, I don't want to see Skamaka go. But Danny Ings, I'd want to see a bit more competition. I want to see someone that like Antonio come in the club. I want to see a fast, powerful striker come in that can compete with Antonio.
Does that mean that you want Antonio to leave, or you just want someone?
No, I'd like to keep Antonio, keep Skamaka, and get another in. And I just think Ings, for me, I don't know. I just don't see where he fits Ings in at all. I just think, for me, he's just going to come on and play cup games occasionally and play the odd bit. I just don't. For someone that's going to do that, I'd rather play Mabama and not have knock off 150 grand a week.
I'm happy to offload him in the summer. Totally agree with you, mate.
So definitely Skamaka keep though. Sad one, this one. Sad one. I'll tell you what, actually, I'm going to leave this one to the end. First of all, it's another controversial one. Max Cornet. I'm not sold on Max Cornet at all. I'm really not. Injury prone. We were warned about him quite a lot. Burnley fans say he's always injured, and it never seems to be really injured. It seems to be always just complaining of injury. He's one of those players, I think, that if he's got a slight complaint, I'm not playing. Oh, my toe hurts. I'm not up for it today. And I don't know. Maybe I'm being really harsh on him, but I'm just not sold on him. I'm not sold. And he's had a couple of moments where you thought, he looks quite lively, quite good, but the fact is, Moyes clearly doesn't rate him either. Like, he's not really picking him anymore, even though he's fit. It kind of just shows you he's obviously not doing a lot in training. He can't obviously be impressing that much. He spent his whole injury in France, which I thought was a bit weird. I'm not sold on him, mate. To be honest with you, another one, I wouldn't be bothered if he went this summer. I think move him on. Maybe he'd be brilliant for us next season, and I'll be proven wrong, but I've not seen enough of him to make me think that he's worthy of staying on at the club. And I think if we want to start freshening up things and going again next season, I look at him as a player that I wouldn't be bothered if he moved on. What's your feelings on Cornet?
Yeah, I mean, if we're being linked to players like Harvey Barnes, it would make sense to, especially Leicester being relegated now. You imagine you could probably get him for. I mean, I think a cut deal for Harvey Barnes would be like 30 million. I think you'd bite anyone's finger off Harvey Barnes 30 million. So if we do something like that, or even Sulemana of Southampton, I think looks fairly impressive. There are other options out there. winger wise, that there's a good market for them. There always is. And obviously, I think Ben Rama's kind of solidified himself as the number one left winger at the moment. And obviously, if Fornals is going to get back in competition for the left wing, which I don't think he should go midfield, I'd rather see Fornals in the mix than Cornet. So I don't mind seeing him go. I still feel like he has a little something to give, but there have been times this season where he has come on in the last 10, 20 minutes and he's just not delivered, has he? So
I come on and I was expecting him to be really explosive, like especially we come back from his injury and he was putting up these videos. So I'm back now, I'm ready, I'm raring to go. I was really expecting him to really burst on the scene and we go, wow, like this is what we've been waiting for. And I just haven't seen it. Like I just haven't really. It's just nothing really. I'm not excited by him. I'm not sure. And I don't know. You just get that feeling, didn't you, of a player? And I've just got that feeling with him. I'm just a bit like. I don't get the feeling he always likes him overly, so I wouldn't be surprised if a sale was sanctioned this summer. If something comes in for him, I think they might offload him. And then the last one for me, mate, this is the sad one, is Ben Johnson. Just looking the shadow of the player, I think. That's a bit harsh, not maybe the shadow of the player, but he's just not progressed in my eyes, really, the last couple of seasons. I'll tell you what it is with Ben Johnson, right? When you've got these backup players, if a girl gets injured and then Ogbonna comes on, you kind of go, fair enough. All right, yeah, he could do a good job for us. Ogbonna would be all right. I trust Ogbonna. He's not as good as a Gerd, but he ain't bad. He can do a good job. Emerson comes on for Creswell. Yeah, he's all right. I can trust him. He's all right. He's not a bad player. He can do something. But Johnson, I just don't have that feeling. When I see Johnson coming on, I'm like, oh no, like what because he can be such a calamitous player and just all over the place and look a bit of a rabbit in the headlights. And I'm just starting to think, this isn't a 17, 18-year-old we're talking about now. It's a guy what's about 23, 24, something like that. And you're thinking, if this is like how he is at this age, I don't know. I mean, is that his age? I'm guessing that's his age. I might be a bit wrong there. But I'm just getting to the point of Johnson where I'm thinking, I don't think you're at this level anymore. I don't think you're a Premier League defender. I don't have trust in you. And he's cocked up so many times now. Although he has played a couple of times this season, but I thought, well, it was all right. It was a bit better. But I think if we want to push on as a football club now, you've got to have reliable players waiting in the wings to come in. We want a reliable right back to say. I mean, look, put it this way: we've got Tio Kier. He's third choice right back now, isn't he? So he's not even. He's waiting on two players to get injured before he can even get in the squad. I'd get rid of him. I know it's really sad because he's academy, and I'd never want to see academy players go. But I just got to that point thinking, we need to free up that space, get someone in that we can trust, and take us to the, push us on a little bit. What's your feelings, mate? Am I being a bit harsh on him there?
No, I think fullback is definitely the position we need to improve on the most next season. Already being linked to someone like Aaron Wan-Bissaka, which would be an unbelievable transfer. It'd be an unbelievable transfer. He reminds me of the Kurt Zouma transfer, a player you just sort of think, surely we won't be able to get him. And we might not, but for me, if Wan-Bissaka comes in, you've got Vlad and you've got who's just signed a new deal, which I'm very excited about. And you've got Tilo, who can play centre back and right back. I don't see his place in the squad anymore, unfortunately. A big one for me. There's a couple of names I'll chuck out there. Yep. Honestly, for me, Creswell's a feel-good player, so I would rather not get rid of him, but I don't think he'd be first choice next season.
He's just signed a new deal, Creswell. Well, he signed it in November. He signed it in November, so
he's staying
on.
So we won't be staying on anyway, but I think we need to replace our left back, which means that for me, do we move Emerson on? Because I think we need a new left back and a new right back. So I'm wondering whether maybe we move Emerson on.
Really?
I don't know what your feelings are on that, but the big one for me is Thomas Souček. I know that it's weird at the start of the season, mid of the season, people were all on his case and we're crying out for him to be lost. And now towards the back end of the season, people there's more of a debate on it. People see like his place in the squad, but for me, I just don't think he suits what we're trying to do at West Ham at the moment. This big lump that wins all the balls in the air, fair enough. And don't get me wrong, will put his body and his heart and his soul on the line for West Ham United. And I've got the utmost respect for him. But for the way we want to play football, I just think having someone like Fornals, Paqueta and a number 6 would be amazing. I just don't see where he fits into this sort of squad. X used a word on the podcast, which I've now adopted for myself, which is ghosting. He just ghosts in games. He doesn't look to show for the ball. He doesn't look confident on the ball. Defensively, he's not great. Like he does sort of just seem to be there to win the headers and sort of throw himself in front of the ball.
Yeah.
I just think we need a shake up in midfield. It's been an area where in transition we haven't been too good, and unfortunately, I feel like he's just such a detriment to the side when he plays. So I don't feel like we get 25 maybe million for him. I feel like he'd go to another club that maybe suits it better. But I definitely just feel like Fornals, Paqueta, and a number 6 is the way forward for this club. So for me, I feel like he's had enough seasons now. He's had an off season last season, been pretty poor for the most part of like good 2 years. I feel like he just has to leave.
Do you know what, mate? I think you put a decent argument in there. I mean, Souček, it's because we're losing Rice most likely, then you sort of worry that it's going to be such an overhaul. But I think it might also be an opportunity then, isn't it? It presents it that if you're losing Rice, you can go, well, let's lose Souček. Let's build a midfield around Paqueta. And as you say, Fornals is certainly making a mark now at the moment. He's got back into the squad and looking pretty good, actually. And I can't disagree with it, mate. Souček's been so poor at times this season and poor last season. It's been quite a long time. I mean, don't get me wrong, as you say, he does get stuck in, does work hard and gets in headers and that, but ultimately, that's not enough. You can't just winning an occasional header. I mean, he's so bad on the ball. His passing's horrific. I've never known a footballer with such bad ability with football. It does frighten me. I don't think that's a bad shout, actually. There is a fair bit of deadwood in this club. I mean, we've said here now, and so I mean, Emerson, I'm not sure. I probably wouldn't change him now unless we can get someone in. We know it's coming in left back that's going to come in straight away and do a job. Then maybe I'll consider it.
I don't mind having 3 left backs. I don't mind. Like, he doesn't have to leave. We get a new left back in. I'm more than happy to keep him at the club. He's not like a Ben Johnson for me, where I feel like he's run his course. So I just think with Johnson, as I said earlier, I can kind of trust Emerson still. Like, I think if we had an injury to Creswell, I'd think I've got no problem with Creswell playing. If we got an injury to Soufal and he went, right, I'm playing Johnson against Man City, you'd be sweating, wouldn't you? Thinking, oh God, like what we in for? Like, and I don't like that feeling. But yeah, I just think that's the way. But what it does highlight, though, mate. I mean, we've listed out players. So you got Danny Ings, Lanzini, Johnson, Cornet, Emerson, and Souček. There is a lot of grounds here for change at West Ham if we want to move things forward. And I think there is going to be a fair bit of change. I mean, David Moyes is playing it down and suggesting it's only going to be a handful, but I think there'll be a bit more than that. Especially if we want to push on. But yes, whatever happens, mate, it's going to certainly be a very, very interesting summer. Absolutely.